Okay, we're live.
That we are.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Let me see. My computer's going so slow. Okay, here we go. Yay, we're live. Hope everybody's having a good week, good day. And that we're almost out of this winter weather. We appreciate the balance though. I was having a conversation yesterday. I think it was yesterday, I don't know, whatever. But about we complain about the weather and stuff, but if it wasn't for this, then you wouldn't have the warmth and the flowers and all that stuff. So we gotta respect the balance. But anyway, that's my little speech about the weather. So again, pray everybody's having a good day. And if you would like to join us, there's a Zoom link. If you're watching this live on Facebook, which is the only way you can watch us live, there is a Zoom link attached to the event today, which is called Mediocrity, how art imitates life. And you can join and have your face on here or not. And if you want to comment, you can put your comments in the live feed. We'll try to monitor that as well. And yes, so again, the title is Mediocrity, how art imitates life. And mediocrity is not really spelled that way, but it's supposed to be a pun, play on words. But
I actually looked it up too. I thought it was a word. I was going
you
to
was
say.
like, dang. I mean, yeah, mediocrity is, but not the way I spelled it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, of course.
But I laughed when I typed it. I was like, this is going to be hilarious. So the detail says, media influences nearly every aspect of our lives with the rise of and increased access to technology. And relationships are not immune. What role does the media play in influencing the Black family? What are the pros and cons of this influence? And how can we use media to improve the quality of Black families? So those are some of the initial questions. We'll do the initial thoughts about the topic, and the order will be Shema, Zebulon, and then I'll go last. So, opening thoughts.
Shalom, shalom, mishpacha. And that is family for those that might not know what that is in Hebrew. I think this is one of the most important topics that we have or that we had because, like this stated up in the description, it is very influential. And those that are in power know this to be true. Let me make sure I don't hit any of the questions. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to say what I was just going to say. I'll save that for one of the questions. But it is very, it's one of those sources that it's a lifeline, so to speak. Like you have no life without media, like in every aspect, any and everything. And it's kind of sad when you think about it. Like I'm watching a TV show called Love is Blind on Netflix. It's kind of interesting, actually. It's where they put a whole bunch of different people together, and then they're going to find who they like. Then they fall in love, which is kind of, some of them was weird. They fell in love like 2 days, and they get married within a month. But the part that I'm using out of that is all the forms of communication is removed from them. And the one thing all of them said and had in common is that they loved that. Not being bothered, not going on social media, not doing any of those things. It actually was a breath of fresh air. It was no controlling. But then a lot of them also said within it is that now they're going back into a society to where everything is so controlled, even controlled from a family standpoint, friend standpoint. How do they feel about you? How do they think about you? What do they expect out of you? What are they trying to control you to do? All of these things. So that show kind of put something on me as I was going into this segment. I was thinking about that, like, man, it's interesting. So Last thing I say is I put a video post up, and I was talking about a community I went to this past weekend as far as Goshen. That's in Georgia. And it kind of paints a different picture. That's why I love the fact that when Chief Zebulon talks about fishbowl, it paints a different picture of what could be and what has been, actually. Like, one of the things that I had said on that video was that I've been in this truth almost 10 years, and I knew nothing about a Goshen community that had been around for 30 years. I don't know if any of you all know, but why don't I know? Because I'm on this fishbowl that Chief Zeb talks about. So it's like, it gives you an idea of what could be. And by experiencing it, it shows, or it then shows you that the influence doesn't have to be. The media aspect doesn't have to be. And the love that I experienced was what we all talk about we want, but it's hard for us to have that because of this media, because of what's out there. I mean, it's our fault, but we allow it to rule us. And with that, I yield.
And excellent stuff, man. Shalom, shalom, man. Can everybody hear me? Because I switched my microphone over. Can everybody hear me?
Now we hear you clear. Whatever you just did.
Oh, okay, no. I'm using my boom mic right now.
Boom shakalaka boom boom. Boom
shakalaka. Yeah. My apologies. But social media. I mean, we speak about this all the time. Me, Shema, a few of us, Isaiah, whatever. We always talk about the power, the good power and the destructive power of social media, and how it affects people's movements in life. And it reminds me of something that I had wrote a while ago about commercials. And going into I think it was according to, I think in like 2012, it said that there was an estimated $3.2 billion spent on pushing out movies and advertisements throughout that year. $3.2 billion. And my position on that is that you got to know that they know that the power of influence is it's an exact science, because nobody puts up that kind of money unless they are sure that they're going to get a return on their investment. So if they're putting out certain messages of, marital debauchery, fornication, drug use, or whatever, they're spending money because they know that there's going to be a return of that. No one just throws away money for the sake of throwing it away. And so when you have people who are willing to invest that kind of money and that type of time into what they call social engineering, that it's an exact science. They know that when they put out a commercial and they play that commercial 4 or 5 times within a 2-hour period, they can be assured that whatever they're pushing, you will be at Walmart picking it up tomorrow. They know this. And it's the same thing with social media. We log on to Facebook, Twitter, and other whatever, but more so Facebook, because it's like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to social media sites. When you log into Facebook, what do you see? You see snapshots of people's lives. You see best possible scenarios of everybody's lives. So even though those of us with good intentions, we're all faking it, because these snapshots don't represent our lives throughout the day. These are just moments. And we present these moments over and over, and we see other people presenting these snapshot moments over and over and over and over. And we get certain perceptions of people based on these snapshots. And it's not until you meet people in real life that you see, that was just a snapshot. Okay, you're really not like that all throughout the day, or whatever the case. And that's good or bad. So yeah, it's a powerful thing, and especially with social media, so much money is invested into Facebook that they know that social engineering is real, and they know that they can control people's perception of relationships, perception of business, perception of entertainment, all through constant news feeds on your timeline, just constantly feeding over and over, because everything is a snapshot. Even when people post things that are allegedly, bad times in their life, it's always smoothed out in a positive way. So even your bad times look good. It's all fakery. And those, there's people who fake it deliberately, and there's those of us who fake it not knowing that we're faking it. And we have no, there's no way to kind of get around it, because again, it's the nature of social media. Social media is not in the business of advertising failure. We like to advertise success. So sometimes you fake it till you make it. So it's an insane concept, but I think that throughout the show we'll touch on some other aspects of it. But that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that. And with that, I yield to the. I don't know if it's Tamar or Yeshayahu or whatever, but I yield at this point.
Okay, I guess that's me. Hello, everyone. Oh man, very interesting topic. You guys pretty much hit it strong. Opening thoughts. Social media can be a very powerful tool, a very misleading tool, and they can do pretty damaging things to relationships of all sorts. I think it's things that we need to watch out for. Previous shows I talked about controlling the narrative or the voice or the voices outside of a relationship. And I feel as though social media is one of those voices that need to kind of be controlled. We talk even amongst building communities. We tend to get news based off of what we see on social media. Social media are these various social resources seem to shape our opinion, understanding, and nature of how we feel on whatever topics. So, it'd be cool to kind of see what everybody thinks of said things, such as memes or so-called scholarship or anything else that happened to get brought forth on these different social platforms, and what we see on TV. And it's interesting to see how those things gear towards our understanding of life itself, because it seems like media in general has a powerful control on how we decide to live. There's even terms out there like, following the Joneses, or, chasing after the Joneses, or however that term goes, so it's interesting. I don't have much to say as far as opening, so I'll yield with that.
Yep. So good thoughts so far. I just in hearing what everybody has said about media, and I'm going to take the stance of, not the stance, but I'm going to look at this topic more so in media in general. So we have, of course, social media. Then we also have, magazines and TV, Netflix, and whatnot. And actually, it's interesting the age that we live in now, where, like I was talking to my kids earlier about, just how, people say the world has gotten bigger. We was reading scriptures earlier, and there was a story. We was talking about, it's not funny, but we was talking about the story about Lot and his daughters and how they slept with him, and they were like, "Oh, nobody else is around," you know what I'm saying? And we was like, "How?" I was like, "Well, how is that possible?" And then my son was like, "But they probably really didn't know nobody else was around, because we're looking at it from our own personal." For those of you who know what story I'm talking about, I hope that makes sense. But we look at we often look at the world according to our own personal worldview. That's my stance. I think in general is that media in general is a tool that is fueled by people. And so the question is, does art imitate life, or is life influencing art? Like, which is it? It's like a chicken and egg type of thing, right? We don't, I guess we can't really never say what was the original source of it, So I think even in that sense, when it comes to the media, I look at both positive and negative. Of course, it can be negative, but people can be negative or positive. So I am more personally interested in us as individuals, or the humanity period, and how we interact with media, and how we allow it to influence us. Because yes, we're all impacted by everything. So even if the TV wasn't around or social media wasn't around, people would still be dishonest to one another, And even Shamaya, the conversation we was having before the show even started, you said something to that effect about, it's people, like the issues, positive and negative. Because what's interesting about not just necessarily this conversation, but in general was conversations period, that when something is negative, I'm saying humanity, I'm making a broad statement, we tend to attribute that to something outside of ourselves, right? But when it's positive, we say, oh, that was me. I did that. You know what I'm saying? So I think, I'm just throwing those thoughts out there, because I think that it's a lot of, lack of accountability, and even the construct of, I had this thought yesterday, even the construct of enemies, right? The biggest enemy we have is ourselves. And I think that a lot of times some people might blame Satan, or blame the government, or I'm talking about people, period, right? They blame stuff outside of themselves. And I think that not only is that disempowering, but it's also, while we acknowledge it, because again, I don't want to make it sound like the media isn't, it does influence us, right? We are in this bubble of a life where we are influenced by things outside of ourselves. But I think ultimately, the decisions that we make, again, to the topic, mediocrity, how art imitates life, the way in which we implement media is us saying, yeah, I agree with that, which is outside of myself, and therefore I'm going to respond to or act on it. And I think that is so much more empowering to understand that no matter what the messages are, we still are ultimately responsible for what we do. So the first question is, what role does the media play in influencing the Black family? I'm going to put it in the chat box, but again, what role does the media play in influencing the Black family?
Man, this question is so broad. There's so many different angles that you can hit. I think we're at a point now that the media is at a point that is very limited what they have to do now, because so much has been done prior. Now we're at a stage to where the information is there that they did it. But we have the power to change it. But it's so much conditioning and work put into it, and studying of these people and things of that nature, that we're at a point where we don't even really realize the role that they played. A lot of the role that we look at is more so ourselves. So I would say, what role does the media play in influencing the Black family now? Little to none. And what I mean by that is because they were so impactful, so powerful, so strategic, so precise in the initial phases. It's kind of like, I don't know nothing about farming yet. I'm still learning. But my vision on farming is the farmer does all the work required, everything needed, everything to build this farm, to get the plants or whatever to grow and all that, did all his work, all his job, all his or her job. And now it's just a waiting game. I just sit back now. I already planted all of these seeds. I don't have to really do anything other than sometimes just look at it, make sure things are right. You know, maybe have to step in slightly, but I did all the work initially. Shabbat Shalom, Shaul. But the role that they play now, like I said, I think is very limited because they did all the initial work in the beginning. Now I think it's more so about when they do something that is affecting in real time, it's more so of a distraction of something that we don't know. You know, not really a conspiracy theorist myself, but I see a pattern with the media. You know, like I was telling someone on the post I just posted when I was talking to you about it too, was the fishbowl effect is what I call it now. I added to Chief Zeb fishbowl. I'm putting effect on that now. The fishbowl effect is like, you know, like this weekend woke me up a little more. It solidified what he was speaking on, right? But going into the role of the media, think about it. They don't see outside of the people that's looking at us as so-called Black people, they don't see outside of the fishbowl. Or some, I mean, people do and they don't pay attention to it because the media has done such a great job to only paint the picture of so-called Black people being horrible, gangsters, thugs. I mean, think about when the same stuff happens to all races when dealing with things that happen in the community, how they label us versus someone else. They'll say that this person's a thug, this and that, blah, 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 but then they'll say this white person or somebody else is sick or something like that. So it is something, it is a strategic thing that they do. Very subtle. Very subtle. But I think at this point, it's just to for maintenance purposes, because they already did a great and wonderful job. I would say wonderful with this, right? They did a great and wonderful job as far as being that role initially. So it's not really a lot needed of influencing. The issue, I would say, I know I'm going outside of the question, is going back to what I was saying earlier, is it's here, it's out there. They're not doing anything really new. We have the information to see what they're doing. And a lot of times people talk about what they're doing. So it's not really them influencing, it's us influencing ourselves, because we'll know what they're doing, but we still contribute to what was done on us. Now that could stem from conditioning too, but I believe we're at a stage that we can get past that conditioning. But we're comfortable. So the role that they play, I'll just say this: they have did such a great job making us comfortable and being content with where we are now. So it's half their fault now. It was fully their fault at first, but now it's half their fault, and the other half is our fault. And with that, I yield.
Okay, excellent, man. And to, you know, and just to I guess land back, as the new doctrine suggests. You know, we'll land back the situation.
Glory to leave.
Yeah, no doubt. But just to, you know, definitely agree with that. The funny thing about conditioning is that the whole point of conditioning is to convince the victim that the violator doesn't exist. That's what makes conditioning so effective. So, like, for instance, and we spoke about this in another show a while ago, when you look at the colonial Africa, when the British and when the British and the French were coming over to Africa, to West Africa, and they were trying to colonialize the continent, their initial efforts were immediately thwarted. They couldn't, they couldn't get in and to make any real leeway, because it's like, hey, these people are going to fight. They're going to fight against the colonial process. So, of course, what one of these bright European conquerors came up with. He said, well, wait a minute. Well, if we keep coming at them, they know who we are. They'll fight us as soon as they see us. But what if we put the information, what if we put the same information into one of their heads and send them into the community? In psychology, it's called indirect rule, where the actual violator does not have to show his face. All he has to do is implant certain concepts into a Trojan horse person that represents that people, and then send that person amongst the people, and the concept or the or the doctrine or whatever will self-perpetuate itself, because now the doctrine or the concept has a host that is amongst the very people who they're trying to influence. So this is when you saw the mass colonialization of the African continent, because now no one saw Europeans coming along. All they saw was fellow quote unquote African tribal men snatching each other up, you know what I'm saying, throwing some chains on each other, and then of course they'll sell them to the to the European. But the whole point with what the European realized is that they were more effective in controlling populations when they're unseen. So let me not be on the forefront. Let me go and send agents amongst them. They'll just continue to still perpetuate the concepts, and we can wash our hands of it. So when someone says, hey, wait a minute, you are oppressing us, they'll say, hey, wait a minute, we're not doing anything to you. You are doing it to you. But it's easy for them to say that after they've already indoctrinated you with it. And so they control your thinking because they control the knowledge base that you've received. So you can't even, this is the reason why you have people who are in the hood, and they might think that what they're doing, they might know what they're doing is wrong to each other, but for some reason they can't stop. That's the power of conditioning. That's why an animal can see food in front of them, and they can see the trap. They see there's a bear trap right there waiting for them. They see it. But they have to move on it because their knowledge base is limited. They can't see outside of the fishbowl. That's all they can operate from. And so the destruction of a people can be perpetuated against each other over and over and over, and the original perpetrator can escape judgment. That is the power of media. So that's all they've been. They've been very successful at transferring that power. This is the reason why they can step back and say, "Hey, wait a minute, we haven't done anything to you. We didn't put the guns in your hand. We're not the one who's telling you to do this and this and that." So it's a very deceptive, because what happens is you do acknowledge that we do play a role in our own destruction. We know that, obviously. But if your knowledge base and your moral compass has been compromised by that information, then what are you really expecting? You're expecting a 5-year-old morally to operate as an adult. So it's a tricky thing. And again, it goes back to why media influence is such a big deal, and why so much money is placed into these vehicles. They're placed into it because they know that we can control the masses without ever showing our face. There's a whole book on it called The Unseen Hand, where they can control you, and you never see the people doing the controlling. You only see the puppets. Everyone focuses their attention on Pinocchio. No one pays attention to Geppetto. So yeah, it's definitely a complicated thing, and I think this is what has effectively I guess in many respects destroyed the so-called Black family from the inside out, because much of what has destroyed us, we've perpetuated against each other. But we do it from a standpoint of not even realizing what we're doing. It's like somebody not knowing they have HIV and they're just going around the community passing it around. They don't know what the hell they're doing. So it's a tricky thing, but obviously we have to, like Honorable Ben Ami, may the Most High bless his memory, always said, he said that one of the worst things that you can do is allow the devil to lose an image. If he loses his image, he can't be identified. If he cannot be identified, you can no longer find the source of evil. And if you can no longer find the source of evil, you can no longer fight it effectively. because where do you start fighting it? If you can't identify it, you can't fight it. So I think that, you know, that like Shema pretty much was moving to that. They've done an excellent job. And their job has been done so excellent that there's those of our people who will remove culpability from them and will place it upon us and let it ride out like that. And it's like, yeah, no doubt, we definitely have a hell of a role to play in this madness, you know what I'm saying, whatever like that. But let us not forget the original, the original predators in this, in these scenarios. We're not the ones who's spending the money on this, on these social media platforms to control social engineering and things of that nature. We're just the recipients of it. Or at least me, I don't spend money on it. So, they spend the money on it. They put the effort to control masses of people on these platforms. And of course we fall into it. That's the unfortunate part. But I agree with I do agree with Tamar. It becomes almost a chicken and egg scenario. And just as quickly as you can say, hey, the chicken is the problem, you're like, well, the chicken had to come from an egg. And you're like, yeah, the egg is the problem. Well, the egg did come from a chicken, or a hen for that matter. And it just keeps going on and on and on. So the question then becomes is, well, who do we neutralize first? Do we just go ahead and kill the egg, or do we go and kill the hen?
Kill them all.
And with that, I yield. I know I kind of went on a tangent, but.
Well, now. Very interesting topic. Very interesting first question. Very broad. You guys laid excellent platforms out. I'm going to kind of spin the narrative in a different way. When we're talking about families and being influenced by media, the roles are infinite. As you guys said, it adds a destructive position in our standpoint. It can also bring forth positivity. I believe when we first opened up a conversation for this topic, the thing that was out there was T.I.'s, I guess, taking his daughter to the OBGYN to get checked out and being interested in his daughter's health, and the storm that created, the talking topics that created inside of individual homes and on social media, period. So when we I guess that can be seen in a good way or a bad way, depending on your stance on that topic. But much like what we do on this show, and we are a social media platform, and we're on a social media platform rather, and we create topics for the benefit of the household, especially using the term Black families. So we play a massive part in this role of media. We talk on it, comment on it, raise question to it. And that's kind of the overall standpoint. Now, there's negative and positive, and both things is duality, but we can't ignore that it's not there. So I agree with Chief and Shema and the platforms that they laid out, because it kind of seems like propaganda has already been created for us to follow the said stereotype. And that's that can be dangerous. So there's multiple different influences. I look at us as a positive one, but in some cases we have to talk about maybe hurtful or negative topics, because that's what the world is geared towards. I look, and it's like social media or media in general does very interesting things to the way we socialize between each other. And I think that's where the control lies. It creates the narrative on how we talk, when we talk, and what we talk about. Okay. Oh, okay. And I thought somebody was going to interject. And that's prevalent. You know, what we used to have back in older days before, you know, maybe media platforms weren't so easily accessible. We would sit at a dinner table and have a discussion. We see these things now taken electronically. We have the roundtable talk discussions, you know, which raised awareness to something Snoop Dogg did and a rant that he had. But these conversations used to be spoke about, I guess you can kind of say privately. Media or these different media platforms have created a way for these things to be hashed out publicly. And that's not always a good thing. So I know I'm kind of rambling, but to answer the question directly, the role would be infinite. Media has infinite roles that it plays inside of the Black families, and it could be detrimental or positive depending on what you're using that media source for and how you're looking at it. We talked about this fishbowl. Well, Shema brought it up for this show a few times. And the thing is, once we get outside of that fishbowl and maybe look at multiple media sources or look at both standpoints of the stories that are being reported, we can kind of see now or remove the veil and kind of see who Geppetto is if he's there, or see what's being spun and why it's being spun in a certain directive or direction. So I will yield there and let whoever's next speak.
Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I want to give a shout out to Chief Zeb, Shemai, Yahoo, Tamar. You know what I'm saying? What's good, y'all? What's going on?
Shabbat Shalom, Lakaki.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kuna Matap.
I just wanted to greet everybody, let everybody know I appreciate them. Appreciate the Most High for giving y'all life today, including myself. But on to the topic. I would definitely start off by saying I'm not an advocate for just completely disregarding, what who the enemy is and what they do. However, I will say that focusing on it the way that we have been doing is a complete distraction, which is why we can't reverse the effects of what they have done. To go into the question, what role does the media play in a Black family? They play a bunch of roles. They play, like Chief Zab was saying about how they control us through certain things, through narratives, and then they play roles. It ain't just us. I mean, it's definitely all the other civilians, but we get affected the most long term because we don't actually have anything as far as culture wise, or we don't have a national code of conduct. We don't have a way that we do things as a unit or as a whole, and we're in certain environments. So due to certain deleterious environments, so therefore when everyone else is affected, we get affected more because it's a lot of things that we lack foundationally that keeps us from being able to reverse the effects. And so, like, for instance, everybody been stuck on this coronavirus thing for like the last couple of weeks, ever since the news came out. This is how you know, and this is the crazy part. This is how powerful the media is and how it affects our families. Because I'm including Hebrew, like Hebrews that know they're Israelites, that know they're Hebrews in this as well. Because it seemed to be that a lot of us fall for these same tactics every year. And I'm not saying that it's not a real virus. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not getting into the conspiracy theory part of it. What I am saying is this, is that have anybody not noticed that every year it's a new disease or something that come out? And I guarantee you in about 2 weeks to a month from now, you won't be seeing a post like that no more. You won't be seeing the breaking news. Such and such just died from this, because they do this every single year. And they do it in the same months every year. The mass shootings and killings, not saying that they're fake, not saying that, but it's the reason why they do them every year on the same months. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why the media and the internet works the way that it does, because like, you know, Chief Zed was saying, Tamar was saying about the chicken and the egg thing, like, I couldn't agree with that more, because that's basically what this is. Like, this is a situation where, like, the media is only as powerful as those who give it attention. So we play a role in it. Of course, they play a role in it. So I would say that, I mean, you got different aspects to the roles that the media play in our lives as people. But and I do agree with Chief Zeb too. He's saying you are expecting someone who thinks like a 5-year-old to operate, excuse me, as an adult, and I agree with that. However, that's the reason why elders on your level as a Chief Zeb, you know, brothers like a Shema, brothers like, you know, Yeshayahu, sisters like Tamar, who have who understand that, okay, something going on that got, you know, we're not thinking like 5-year-olds. I mean, we're having these conversations. We on the, you know, seem to be that we're being used to do a work. So this is why I always talk about the great sacrifice that we all have to make sure that those who are trying to make a change, but just don't have the capabilities or the strength to bear the burden, that we help them bear that burden, and so that we can start to right the ship. But everybody not going to be able to be saved, because that's just not the way the prophecies is going to work out. And so I think that understanding that us to do the best that we can, to do that work, to do that will, to get those who's reaching their hand up, understanding that whenever you in war, and it's not one time you're gonna lead anybody into battle and come back with all the people, man. It's gonna be a lot of casualties, and we have to accept that and understand that. And media, it's not gonna go nowhere, no time soon. And the internet and the way that we view things, it's not going nowhere. And so, you know, circling it back around to, you know, coronavirus and some of this other stuff, we always kind of seem to get into a panic and go into, you know, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Like, look how fast these things come into play, and then you don't hear nothing about it. Like last year, everybody thought the world was over when Donald Trump shut down the government, and everybody was tripping. Like, everybody was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like, this is what I mean. Like, it's crazy how we know where tricks being played on us. And I'm not talking about all of us, but it's crazy how we know that tricks is being played on us, but then we still fall for the tricks. That's the part I don't understand, because I promise you, since I've been in this world, every year they come up with something. Every winter, every summer, just before summer in the spring, and every fall, it's always something, either a mass shooting, somebody got shot by a cop, some type of new virus, mad cow disease, pork disease, chicken disease, all type of stuff. They do it every single, and we fall for it every year. We do it every year. We fall for the same stuff over and over again. You know what I'm saying? And we be in a panic. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't be prepared, but you should be prepared before any propaganda even come out. You should always be prepared. You should always be on 10 and ready to go. You know what I'm saying? You should always be ready to get it in. You should always have your body prepared, always have your mind prepared. I mean, that's the life we supposed to be living. We Israelites, right? But it just it just becomes a shame unto us that have knowledge that I heard you, Shema, man, Ghost, you stupid. It's becoming it can become, and it has become to a degree, a shame upon those who actually see these things and not coming together with those other people that see these things on a great grand scale to try to solve this problem. But at the same time, I don't want to discredit the fact that Chief Zebulon is doing a great work to try to rebut that. Shammai came up with some great ideas to try to rebut that. So I don't want to take nothing away from those, not just them two, but those other brothers and sisters that's out here that's trying to do things to rebut this. But I just want to say that it's to the brothers, man, we gotta get it together, and we gotta step up, and we gotta do what we have to do as men, and we have to make vows to right this ship, man. However, because like for instance, when the Most High told David, like I want I'm gonna have you build my house, but Solomon was the one that actually built it. So, but David laid the foundation. So at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, even if we don't be the one that laid the brick, let's just lay the foundation. And with that, I'm going to yield, and because I always like to give solutions and all that type of stuff whenever I answer a question. So I'm going to yield right there. But I think everybody that spoke so far that I heard, man, you guys got great points. And I agree, man. Let's get the job done, though. You know what I'm saying? Shalom.
And there's somebody on here named Yana. I'm not sure if you want to speak, sis, but if you did, you have the floor. Or if you just hear this to listening.
So,
oh.
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hey,
okay,
sis.
Shalom.
Hey.
This is my first time here. I'm just coming to hear what we're talking about today. So,
okay.
Yeah. Shalom to all who is here.
Shalom. So yes, if you ever want to jump in, you could say something. We'll just keep going around. But we appreciate you being here.
Oh, well, you wanted me to speak on it?
Well, only if you want to. You got the floor, so it's up to you.
Oh, well, no, I was listening. I would definitely agree with that preparedness. And I'm off of Facebook right now because of the same things and everything that just goes on in the community and how we are bamboozled and brainwashed. So, when I heard all of the conversations and just how we do what we do, and I mean, everything is already targeted toward us because they know how we work. They've been looking at us for so long because we are who we are. So, just what I heard about the preparedness just spoke to me. So that's just how we have to move together and just get off of it, worry about what we need to worry about, get to who we need to get to. We have a work while we're here. That's why we're here. So that's just my thoughts.
Ocean.
By the way, I had invited her to listen to the show. She wasn't expecting to speak because that wasn't really what that was about. Not saying I got a problem with that, but I do want to say that I'm glad she did. And but she was just really spectating initially because she didn't have Facebook. But I told her, if you want to listen, you can get the link or whatnot. I don't really know no other way to listen to the show other than Facebook or being on here. So that's why that happened like that did. So my bad if because I didn't know that y'all was gonna bring her in that way. So anyway, not saying that was a problem. I just wanted to say that real quick.
Ain't nothing wrong with it, man. Your family is our family.
Yeah, and that's the only way that we know if somebody want to speak or not is by asking them directly. So, but I feel it. So to the question again, the question is, what's the question? Oh, what role does the media play in influencing the Black family? So, not to repeat what anybody has already said, but just again, being on the influence, just speaking a little bit about some of the somebody said it already, but it's the media in general. Again, not just social media, but books, magazines. Do people still read? Just me? No. Okay. But they have. I think these mediums have normalized conversations. Period. You know what I'm saying? And I think again, we often talk about the age of information that we're living in now. If and it's not that unusual. I mean, I guess it's more heightened. But if you look at I'm going back to the books thing, right? So books have always been around. The literacy rate, I'm sure, has changed and increased perhaps over the years, but we have always theoretically had access to information, maybe not to the scope, because you have fake news, which is media, but that ain't, what is that? You know what I'm saying? So, but I do think the media, as far as Black family has normalized conversations, whereas they might not have had happened before, especially if you think about the previous generation, like our parents. I'm 41, so people older than me, I think somebody mentioned how, people didn't have conversations, a lot of secrecy, a lot of, I call it pride. People not want to necessarily talk about what's going on because you don't want nobody to know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So, but I think the media has allowed these conversations again to happen. I think the media has also reinforced archetypes. So thinking back to, we mentioned some of the, somebody mentioned something about, like, you see a Black man, the media might say he's a thug. You look at somebody who's white, who's done the same thing, and he's just sick, and that's true as well. But I think also thinking about media in general. So I'm just gonna put out movies and like TV shows, right? So a lot of times, again, these are broad generalizations I'm about to say. So Black people generally, typically will say, oh, we don't you only see us acting like, a hoe or whatever. Or you only see us acting like a thug on TV. But I'm like, but somebody Black was like, pick me for the part. So going back to, again, the balance of it all, right? And understand that the media is there, and it's there, but it's also, it could be positive. It allows for alternative scenarios towards healing. You know what I'm saying? Again, we're talking about this particular platform, which was birthed, praise the Most High, but through Shema was birthed off of him looking around and being like, dang, like, why can't we succeed? So through his, I think Yana mentioned it, through his, ability to be a servant and to, like, step into his calling and to have the platform be out there to invite us all to come on, that's a positive thing. And it's at least allowing the conversation to happen. I'm hopeful that people listen, and then I know people have listened and implemented the stuff, but that's all we can do. I think Shaul said that eloquently, right? We but it would be naive for us to think that media either on a positive note or media on a negative note would change the entire dynamic of the world, because it's always about a few. It's always been about a few. Even if you just skip the media and think about reading the scriptures, it was never a collective, everybody finna get it. You know what I'm saying? It was always about only a few adhering, and I'm talking about those who call themselves the people of the book. It was never like a collective group thing. You know what I'm saying? In fact, we were reading earlier in 1 Samuel, real quick, and when Saul was anointed, that's a very touchy subject to the Most High, but when he was anointed, I think people was hating on Saul even being anointed. Like, I forget what chapter it is. I want to say it's 1 Samuel 10, the last verse or something, where, everybody, they had anointed him or whatever, and then it was, I think it says the sons of Belial was like, who is this Saul? He ain't nobody. You know what I'm saying? So you always have, even, I'm just mentioning that to, again, emphasize humanity, human beings, period, right? If you are, speaking about the farming thing, if you are a person who is drawn to negativity and darkness, that's what is going to come out of you, and vice versa, And I think too, with again, with the media's impact on Black families, it's a like, I agree wholeheartedly with Shema. It's already the foundation has already been carved out for us as far as who this world thinks we are. You know what I'm saying? We are like even with me, I'm around a lot of white people, you know what I'm saying, by definition, because of where I live and, whatever. But like, I've been thinking lately that, and no shame to them, but they don't know nothing about us. You know what I'm saying? And they could have access to us. Again, looking at the media, they don't know nothing about us. If I say something and if I use slang, they be confused. So there's a difference, you know what I'm saying, among all of us. And I think that even with the media in place, you still might have people who don't quite, understand us. And even amongst each other, you know what I'm saying, we might not necessarily understand each other. But I think all of that is just something else to, to diffuse the accountability, you know what I'm saying, as far as, again, the impact. But again, the impact of the Black family, it can be positive, negative. The other thing I want to say is, thinking about the media, you look back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, you had the Cosby Show and Different World, or whatever. We had all this Black media, which is, we're seeing it a lot more now. We're seeing a lot more Black media, Black shows, Black movies, Black producers. So it's like the same thing all over and over again. But I remember, watching them shows, and those images, again, going back to archetypes, encourage a lot of us to go to school. You know what I'm saying? Which, that's a whole nother conversation with student loan. But I'm just saying, the way in which we could, use it to our benefit, at least those parts of it. But I think that somebody said it too, that something is wrong with the foundation. I think Shema said that there's something is wrong with the foundation of us, whereby we can't, we're like waves in the ocean. We toss to and fro literally. Like Shaul was talking about with the coronavirus. I'm so tired of hearing about that. I was yesterday talking about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's annoying. You know what I'm saying? Constant fear. And last year was the measles. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, not saying that it's not going on, but those things, I think ultimately what they do, at least for me, especially for those of us who say we're trying to serve the Most High, all it does is unveil who really believe in Yah, who don't. Because if you, and I'm not judging, but I'm not, because I understand that it's a process towards drawing close to the Most High. Just like with any other relationship, you have to draw closer to Him. You have to learn how to trust Him. You have to fall and scrape your knees and get back up and learn, just like a baby does, about what is and what isn't. But all that's doing is kind of showing who is and who ain't. You know what I'm saying? Down for the cause and whatnot. And also, I think the last thing I'm gonna say is that if the media went away, again, the impact of the media on the Black family, if the media went away right now, let's say it went away, right? Then what? We would still have to have something. I think it goes back again to what Shema said about the foundational truths that we have access to, but we don't believe in them. So it's not like, so the same way the media is, air quote, messing up our homes and doing things to us, we have access to the tools, and we still don't want to do it. So again, chicken and egg, what are we going to do? I don't know. So the next question is, and I kind of already was talking about it, but what are the pros and cons of this influence? So again, we're talking about media. What are the pros and cons of this influence on Black families? I put the question in there too.
All right, I started talking and I didn't unmute myself. What's interesting is there is a lot more pros than cons, but we aren't using the pros effectively. Media has allowed us to have certain voices now. I believe it was Shaul that brought out either Shaul or Yeshayahu that brought out the T.I. incident. I think it was Yeshayahu. Brought out the T.I. incident. Back then, that's a bad example because he's already a rapper. But still, that type of platform, we could get on YouTube, until they cut us off. We could create our own website. We can, have our own blog talk radio, our own different podcasts and stuff like that. So to me, it's more of a pro. I don't think it's, from what I know of, maybe I'm the fishbowl in this instance. On a large scale, I don't know if we're doing it effectively by objective speakers. And I say that on purpose because I do notice often many of us aren't objective, and nothing is wrong with being subjective, but being subjective all the time causes more emotion towards individuals that really have no objective thoughts whatsoever. So it just keeps a tumbling effect of a whole bunch of different emotions from people just talking and not accomplishing anything. But I think that is more of a pro. The cons is, I was surprised if I said I don't believe it's really any cons anymore. I think the only con is we're not taking advantage of the pros. You know, we have, I mean, they sunk their teeth in us so deep. It's going to take a lot for us to overcome it. But we have these media outlets, these blog radios I was mentioning, all these different things to where we can, but we don't have it seems like we don't have enough people who care enough. Like we have created so much of individuality within us, which is another a tool that was used to condition us, I want to say, that the amount of people that we have to speak out is not enough. It's not even grazing the surface. It's not grazing the surface. I think that social media has created, or social media and media in itself has pushed us so far away from each other when it comes to community, that we don't have, it creates a non-fighting chance. Can you imagine today, another Ben Ami trying to arise and get a group of people to leave this country? You know, as Chief Zebulon would say, bless his memory. Like, may the Most High bless his memory. But I don't think it will happen. I don't think it will happen. I don't think the effect that Malcolm X had back then will happen today. I don't think it will happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't, because I think today we're so disconnected from each other versus like back then, and so content and so conditioned as integration has been embedded in us due to media. that is the biggest con. But the pros, in my opinion, outweighs the con if enough people used it properly and objectively. And if we was more so community-based, then this separatism, if that's the word, I feel like it is, that we have amongst each other. So surprisingly enough, I'll just end it by saying I really truly believe that it's more of a pro, surprisingly, than a con. But the con overweighs the pro due to the hollowness, I guess you could say, within the community when it comes to using media or using the influence that media could have if it's pushed by us. And that's it.
Okay, Naki. Yeah, you there was a point that you had made, and I just wanted to just comment on that before I go into the I guess my vantage point of the pros and cons of social media. When you asked the question as to could elders like Malcolm X or Ben Ami Ben Israel, or and those of yesteryear, could they rise up and thrive in this day and time? And I agree. It's I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's relatively improbable. And I think it's sort of like for the same reason why marching is not effective anymore. Why it was effective 50 years ago, but it's not effective now. And I think social media has a lot to do with it. What social media, when I say social media, I'm not talking about the technology of social media. I'm referring to I'm talking about the think tanks that are pushing concepts through social media. Like, I have no problem with using a phone, but people who talk on the phone can be wicked as hell. So I have no problem with, so it's you have to be able to separate the technology from the agenda behind it. But with social media has removed the necessity for people to galvanize. 50 years ago, there's no social media. So if you really wanted to make a difference with people, you had to go seek out people. You had to seek out communities. You had to go seek out this person and that person. You had to actually physically get involved. If not, you were just left in the dust. So there was always, in those times, there was always the necessity to be involved in real time. Social media has removed that necessity. So now when someone says, hey, let's rise up and go and set up a community and we can be together, the first thing people say, and you can see it right there on the fishbowl, is they say, well, why we got to do that? If I want to talk to somebody, you know what I'm saying, I just log into social media, I holler at them in the inbox. Be like, well, yeah, but if we meet up, we can get to know each other personally and whatever. Like, people can't fathom that concept anymore, because especially the younger generation, because they don't know about, like Tamar said, they don't know the things that a 40-plus-year-old knows, as far as we know about life prior to social media, prior to the internet. So it's a different ball game now. So people, I think leaders who take that position, like a Ben Ami, it would probably be a much more radical failure today than it was in 1967, because people don't have the there's no benefit anymore for real-time interaction. Why? When I can just message you. Why do we need to get together? I could just send I could just send you a text. I could just hit your DM or whatever the case, and we could chat, whatever, and call it a day. Why do I have to travel all the way to Chicago to talk to you? You see what I'm saying? And I think that's the sentiment of why something like that. Not saying that it can't work in this time, but it would be very hard. A person would be very hard pressed for that type of rising to be effective today as it was in the 1960s and the 70s or whatever. So I agree with you, Aki. It's I don't really see it happening. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's improbable for it to happen. But as far as the pros and cons of social media on the people, I think it goes right back to my point that I think that when we talk about the cons of social media, we're not talking about, we shouldn't be talking about the technology. The technology, is very useful. But it's not the technology that we're, that I think that we have an issue with. I think it's the thoughts, the concepts that are being pushed through the technology. It's kind of like the argument of gun control. When someone says, hey, we need to, we need to, invest in some bills pertaining to gun control because there's a lot of violence or whatever. And the people think that by removing guns, you remove violence. And it's like, well, no, guns are inanimate objects. They have no life of their own. They're just a thing. Depending on who has the gun, you can either the person can either be protecting life or a person can be destroying life. It's all in the person who's controlling the tool. So if banning guns is not the problem. It's the people that are the problem. The guns are of no consequence. They're just there. It's just like water. Water can give you life or water can drown you. It really depends on who's using it. And I think it's the same thing with social media. Again, if we're talking about the technology of it, the usage of, let's say, Zoom, like right now we're on Zoom. The usage of Zoom is a beautiful thing. What we're accomplishing in these platforms, is fantastic. So that's not the problem. But imagine if you had someone using Zoom and they were promoting the abuse of women and children, or they were promoting drug use and all types of things like that. That's what we really have a problem with. And I think sometimes we kind of cross, overlap these concepts where we almost make the technology of social media synonymous with the evil that's being spewed through it. So when people say, "Oh man, social media is evil," like, yeah, but I think I don't think we're talking about our computers are evil. I think we're saying, hey, every time I log in, I see a bunch of tomfoolery and skullduggery going on my timeline. I think that's what we're really against, the concepts as opposed to the technology. But if we're talking about the technology, I agree. I don't really see that much cons other than, it might be a distraction to real life interactions. I don't know about y'all. I've seen people who all they ever do is they're on their phones all day, and then you try to get them into a conversation, and all of a sudden they have very little to talk about. Meanwhile, they done posted a 3 million word Facebook post earlier. You see what I'm saying? So outside of the distraction from real life interactions with people, I would agree. I think there's way more pros than cons if we're talking about the technology. But again, if we're talking about the skullduggery that's being pushed through it, then yeah, there's a lot of cons to it. I just think that we have to be circumspect in our distinction between the two, and and what we are referencing or whatever. Sometimes I fall into that as well. I mean, I let them overlap, and then I got to think about it and be like, nah, that's evil as hell. Let me make that distinction. So yeah, I'll pass on this
one. Dang, Chief hit all the points that I wanted to make. So I'm gonna try not to be excuse me. I'm gonna try not to be repetitive. I might be anyway though.
Bring it out. Repetition is good. That's how we learn.
That's what they say. Here we go. Pros
which is also conditioning, interestingly enough. But
I know, right? Pros and cons, right? The pros. While we were all having this discussion, while everybody was thinking, I was thinking of the term double entendre, right? And if I have it right, I might be using the wrong word, but I don't think I am. It, depending on how it's used, it can be used both ways. And there's a negative. It's like a double-edged sword. There's a negative and a positive to everything. Again, our lack of socialization and socialization skills, now that our faces are glued to our phones, glued to the TVs, glued to computers, we very seldomly have personal interactions, which is why I'm low-key hating on everybody that went out to Goshen. I wanted to go, but that's just a joke. I'm glad y'all had a good time. All in all, yeah, what I was saying, that's a major con. It pushes us away from that the ability to go out and walk, or as you say, do what King and the Malcolm X's of yesteryear did, which was cause reform through action. As far as being a gateway for messages, that's a major pro. So to dispute the con, that would be a major pro, because although people are now glued to these various forms of media, whether it being social or any other format, we're sitting in now, or now we have the ability to become influencers, and that's a positive or negative. So just a gateway alone to get a message out is a beautiful thing. It's what you do after that message has now been posted. And then that goes into the whole conversation, which I think Tamar alluded to a few times, which is accountability, and how we say things, we don't necessarily act on things, or we maybe hide behind what, some people call Twitter fingers or Facebook fingers, and post all of these crazy things, knowing darn well we're not about that life. So when we get tested in reality, you see certain negative things happen now, or you see people have a lack of accountability, or not being true to their word, because what they spoke on these platforms is not what they're willing to do. And that creates another issue. But I know you guys said you don't think it's highly improbable for a social leader of that magnitude to cause that can cause that much change, I think we have to go where the people are. And I think we can create another person, or there can be another person to arise to galvanize the people and cause our reform. I think we just have to have a person who is polarizing enough to not only say what they got to say on one media platform, but do it on all media platforms. I mean, we have examples like the Me Too movement, or even some silly ones like the Cancel R. Kelly movements and stuff like that, which had their birth on social media, which had their birth on the news stations, but now have become kind of a culture or understanding of its own. Bad and good, yeah, but it's there. So when you say what are the pros or cons, I mean, it's definitely, to me, more pros than cons. I think, as Chief said, it's what you're doing with the technology. As a standalone, I think it's a con. I think once that standalone is applied with action, then it becomes an ultimate pro. Same way, like he said, a good, perfect example is this Zoom platform that we're using now, which is also connecting us to Facebook and YouTube and potentially other platforms, you know, which then can be seen by maybe somebody who runs some news station somewhere and says, hey, I want to put this awesome work on a network. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that it's going to go that far or not go that far. It'd be beautiful if it did. The point that I'm making is the technology is there. It can be used for positive. And I would like to say we're an example of positivity. But it's what you do. Same way we have these music platforms, and, you know, the mindset of the music or what's being said has kind of changed over the years. So we see more so, instead of these platforms itself, the people on the platforms, their mindsets have changed. What we care about has changed. Back in the early 50s, 60s, 40s, you know, because the oppression was more visible, there was a need for social reform. And even we look at now, those who feel socially oppressed now, those reforms are happening, and these various medias are collectively pushing those narratives. Can we blame the medias for that? No, we can blame the people who control them. We can blame the people who are using them. I just scrolled past a post a few seconds ago that said something very negative and had probably close to 500 likes. That just shows the mindset of the people. Seeing something else that only had 4 likes, but it was very positive, not as many people gravitated towards it. I think when you link these different medias together, it could do 2 things. I think Tamar made an excellent point of, you know, people not reading anymore and literacy levels, but that might be alluding to another topic. But, you know, all in all, it's real, because people aren't reading anymore, and books are kind of being phased out for these more audible and visual things that we have now. You know, so literacy levels are dropping, which is another issue, which I guess you can say is a cause of the use of these electronics and things like that. But they're putting people who are maybe good orators, if I'm saying that word correctly, in the light to create change based off of what they want to do. The thing is, I think we are hitting all around the point, which is the mindset of the people. And I know we're trying to be a controlling matter in that nature to say, wake up and think about something different, or wake up and use your mindset for something different. But, you know, like all other media platforms, are people who are channeling their messages through them. If we're looking at social media alone, that gateway creates a very broad, multiple way for many people to get their voices out. And that could be bad and good. And it has been bad and good. And we can see its destruction of our people and all people, anybody who consume. But we also see, you know, the upliftment of those same folks when the message that they're tuning into is positive. So I feel like I'm rambling now, so I'm going to yield there. I know there's other people who want to speak, but I'm glad that we are now, I will hope that out of everything that I said, people look at the messages that they're pushing out there, you know, and even the things that they're allowing themselves to be caught on to, like Shaul previously mentioned, the coronavirus and how that's like the new buzz topic. We can change what buzz topics are if we apply effort. I yield.
All right. Okay. What are some of the pros and the cons? By the way, I think everybody had, you know, good points so far. But one thing I will say though is that I do disagree to some degree to social media being and the internet being more of a pro than the con. Not disregarding the platform.
I don't know if it's only on my end, but
Yeah, we can't hear him. You just cut out, Aki. Also, can you bring your mic towards your lips? Pause. You sound far away when you are talking. Well, we can't hear you.
Yeah, that was an ultra pause for real.
That's why I had to say pause right after I said it.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
I find it crazy that y'all are both saying pause.
Why? Because we in the we old? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying. Everybody who knows me knows that I hate that term because I think it's stupid. But not hate. Let me rephrase it. I just dislike the use of it because
I think Shaul dropped off though, y'all.
Yeah, I think he did too.
That's another.
So I want to
social media.
Yep. Sorry, I want to read this comment real quick by one of the brothers online. He asked a question about I forgot the original question, but anyway, he said that he guessed the con would be the ability to spread negative information to the impressionable. So I just wanted to read that.
That's definitely a fact.
Yeah, and that's what I was actually alluding to earlier when I said that, you know, that it's not the technology itself that's the problem. It's the skullduggery that's being pushed through it. You know, when people put a whole bunch of nonsense through. Because I mean, there's times where I go, you know, I log on to Facebook, and there's certain people who I could just, before I even read their post. Okay, am I back on now? Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Nah, you can go ahead and read what I was about to read real quick.
Oh, no. I was just commenting on what was just being read, just whatever.
Okay.
No, but I was just saying that that there's certain people who that they're so positive and they got so much great stuff to offer online that even before I read what they're about what they posted, as soon as I see their name, I'm already ready to click like, because I already know what their energy is going to be. Their energy is always uplifting. It's always trying to give something positive to people. But then there's some people who, as soon as I see their name, I scroll past because I already know it's going to be some nonsense. It's going to be either some anti-man or anti. It's just going to be anti-woman. It's just be anti, whatever. And I'm like, man, I ain't got time for that 6 o'clock in the morning. I keep it moving. So
right.
So I agree. I don't know if it was a brother or sister who posted that question that Tamar just read, but yeah, that's pretty much what we're getting at. That it's not the technology itself that's the problem. It's the person behind it. Like, it's not the screen, it's the person behind the screen. And with that, I'll keep it moving.
Okay. Hallelujah. Yeah, I don't know what happened with the whole signal thing, but I think that was a great point that you made. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say it's a problem with the technology. It's the people behind it. But the one thing I will say though is that social media, when you talk about the pros, benefited the financial side, the business side more than anything else. Because to be honest with you, like if social media, if everything but the business and financial side was taken away, I think it'll make people. I think it'll make a overwhelming majority of people a lot better because they have to. Because the problem with social media, you know, when you talk about a con, which is way more. I mean, it's way more noticeable than the pros is because it takes away people's ability to not only socialize, which you guys made a point about that earlier, but it also takes away people facing their fears and confronting the negativity within themselves. So social media allows people to amplify the bull crap that's in them. So, and to be honest with you, that's why that's what I don't like about it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's probably the part that I hate about it the most. Is that like, cause we all got a little, we all got a little stuff that we do, but but when it comes to our people, you just got things that people do that's just on, it's on 100, man. Like it's on 100 all the time. And like Chief Zeb was like, you know, with certain people that I know positive, he ready to click like, you know what I'm saying, before he even read what they say, cause he already know what they on. And then when they negative, you know what I'm saying, like he like, bro, I'm gonna scroll past that, bro. I already know what they about to be on. And so I agree with that because
Chief, that's what you do with me, huh, Chief? Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. That's a damn lie, brother.
That's crazy. But yeah, me personally, I think, I mean, social media is gonna always be around. The internet gonna always be around. It's not gonna go anywhere. I think people that really wanted to strive to exist in the vacuum should do so and have a balance, learn a balance between the two. I'm more old school with it. Like I like to see people's faces, shake their hand, look them in their eye. I don't, you know, like initially I don't mind speaking to people on social media and kind of filling each other out over the phone and stuff like that. I'm cool with that. But bro, we gotta meet eventually, man. You know what I'm saying? You just can't be on the other side of the world, bro, and just not be trying to link up. You know what I'm saying? That communication gonna get lost real quick, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyway, back to the pros and cons. Like, I think that there's the pros could outweigh the cons if with the remnant, and I say remnant in the sense of prophecy wise, you know what I'm saying? Like those who really understand that, okay, I'm not about the negativity, I'm really trying to do this the right way. You know, it can outweigh that, but it's still, even with that, it's still gonna be a remnant because the majority of these people out here, man, they bugged out of their mind. They bat, you know what, crazy. And it's gonna always be like that. And I just don't see it getting no better when it comes to the social media thing, when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that that those who got the capabilities to put out the message the best they can to the masses, let that thing, kind of marinate, you know what I'm saying, on everybody. And, hopefully we can get one or two out of each group. But for the most part, man, I just agree with some of the statements earlier by people just kind of taking the negativity in. Like Yahoo was saying, I just kind of take the negativity in. They can just kind of hide behind the keyboard and the computer and say what they want to say because subconsciously they probably was nobodies in the world, and now social media gives them the platform to kind of just be their own personality and kind of make stuff up and not be authentic, which is why, because then that creates that breeds a lack of trust amongst ourselves. Because then if you got a certain type of person, now you always on 10, like, man, this person even who they say they are, because on social media, everybody fake. So, I mean, like me personally, man, I see more negative things with social media than I see positive things. Like, it is not to say that the people that's doing positive, like this Zoom and this show, Love Language, I believe is a positive aspect of it. But just to keep it 100, like, it's not enough of these going around to me that people actually care about to want to make a change, man. Like, people want to get into the drama, man. You know what I'm saying? All it takes is for one person to go live, like yes, y'all was saying, or make a status, and that joint got 500 comments on there, man. 500 likes, 1,000 likes, man. I'd be like, bruh, what's going on? Like, I mean, do anybody care about, you know what I'm saying, any type of, anything positive, man? People only care about positivity when it's convenient for them. But I think it just takes certain, I think it's only a remnant of special people that say to themselves, like, man, I ain't into none of that. I'm gonna just keep it a buck and positive all the time. And so that just kind of emanates through the spirit of the people, through the spirit of that person to other people that's of a like mind. So I don't know. I really ain't have much to say on this question because I think that it's like the pros and the cons is kind of one and the same. From another perspective, being that what's the long-term effects of too much information? Because the same way we woke up and the same positivity we got from learning different things is the same thing that's bringing us back down and putting us in the grave. And so it's like, I don't know. I just don't bother with it. I just rather link up with people, look in your eyes, see what you about, see what you want, see if you everything you say you is, and push you to the test like that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I kind of was rambling a bit with it because I'm not really a social media person. I really don't know too much about social media and what to say. I just speak my mind and keep it 100 at all times, no matter if people get offended or not, and let it be that. You know what I'm saying? And, but it's always with solutions and trying to, you know, bring about some type of thought reform, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But I just think social media is just a big cesspool of conformity. So I don't bother with it. I'm a yield right there.
Yep, well said. And again, what are the pros and cons of the media on Black families? So I'm gonna do the cons first. It dumbs down people. So just to hit, it was a brother that made a comment earlier about people being impressionable. But I think it dumbs down people. I'm not sure who said it, but just to the point where you could like watch a short video and think you woke now, that you know all you know about a topic. So that's horrible, by the way. And I think too, like I keep saying I work at a school, right? And I was sitting in one of the classes one day, and this is not a big deal, but it just kind of threw me off. But we were sitting there, and somebody said, "We know what does this word mean?" And the teacher was like, "Pull your phone out." And then the girl like Googled, what does this word mean? I'm like, damn, like what's the dictionary? So I think not that it's anything wrong with an online dictionary. I just thought that was an example. That's an example of how we look to media, at least the internet or whatever, and as a source of instant information that may or may not be accurate, and that does not. I think Shema mentioned, subjective and being objective. It does not even, because I believe. Okay, I'm gonna ramble real quick. Even if you believe something to be the case, your faith in what you believe to be the truth is only useful if you can also hear other perspectives. And then once you hear that, then you are solidified in what you believe. And I'm just saying in general, about different topics. It's good to hear other thoughts. Not that you would want to debunk them and have a whole debate, but that you would be standing in some kind of wisdom on what you know, what you think you know. So anyway, but so that's the con. But the pros are, definitely it amplifies the voices of those who have been historically silent, and that again could be positive and negative because some people probably should have never gotten no microphone in front of them. They should have never been able to do that. But to be fair and being equitable, those people who probably feel like they can't never say something, they have the opportunity to at least express themselves. We keep talking about ghosting and things like that, and I just say for me personally, the social media has allowed me to meet people who I've never met. Like in the previous radio platform I was on, I met so many nice people. I mean, and we was initially just on the phone through Blog Talk, but I met so many nice people who I had been warned against. Not personally warned against, but warned against as opposed to they were not like us, And I met so many nice people, and people who I'm in contact to this day, people who I've flown out to meet or they've flown to meet me. So I agree, Shaul, with that. Like, that's a positive thing, is that but that's only if you want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could have said no to the invite, you know what I'm saying? So ultimately, your ability to get off social media or use it as an opportunity to meet people face to face, even just locally. Like, I go to a lot of, I like going to places, doing stuff. So it's allowed me to meet different people, even just where I live locally as a relatively newcomer to where I am. So, so, is that it? Yeah. Okay. So then it also, so this is a pro. It also gives you quick access to what people think. So that's another way to vet people and just figure out what they don't like. Like y'all been saying, you scroll past people's comments and stuff, and people tell you immediately online who they are. I think that it's only so much you can fake be yourself until you oops and say something you shouldn't have said, or just not even something you shouldn't have said, but say something that's accurate, as actually you. I think what you say out your mouth is an indicator of who you are. What you type is an indicator of who you are. What you do is an indicator of who you are. So even if you are positive Polly, right? you quoting scriptures all day long, or you being really, really positive, a picture's gonna show something about you, or somebody gonna catch you on video doing something. So I think that it's always a slippery slope, but I think it's good that we even have that as another opportunity to not accuse people, but just to see who people are, because people, they may not necessarily tell you who they are in fullness, whatever. And real quick story. So years ago, this girl I used to know, whatever, was talking about how you, I guess talking about dating or something, and how you meet somebody and you want to know who they are. So she sent me a link to like the court records, right? And so I don't push court records, but I'm just saying, again, a pro of the media or the platform period is that it can unveil stuff about people that you they probably would never tell you. Not that they should be ashamed, especially if you think about, people change, you know what I'm saying? But just, I've always thought about that as another way to get to sort of learn more about somebody. And they may not ever tell you. Like, it's somebody right now who I know, and they don't even know I know their business, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm nosy. But it allows people to really find out about who you are and the things that you're going through, just so you'll be aware. Not that you be accusing them or making them feel bad, but that you be fully aware of what's going on with people, because we often don't tell the truth because of pride and shame. So anyway.
You looked into me. Okay. Go ahead, put it up.
No, it wasn't you. No, it ain't you. But court records, y'all, just Google them on the court records, find out where they at, and look up their name. You can find out everybody's business. Okay, so last question is, how can we use media to improve? How can we use media to improve the quality of Black families? So.
No, I was playing when I said that. Anyway, how can we use media to improve the quality of Black families? We're doing it right now. I think that.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that it's just not enough of us. It's not enough. The reason I keep throwing out ghosting like that, man, like I told Shaul, I told Chief Zebulon, I told Tamara a little bit in the beginning of this show. Everybody I done talked to about it, it was just a different feeling. You know that love that all of us are desiring? Those of you that's listening on Facebook right now, the love that you want Israel to have, display, and demonstrate, you don't see it because of the fishbowl effect that that Chief Zebulon speaks of. But I threw the effect in there to make it more vibrant, you know what I'm saying? No, I'm playing. I think that it can improve if it was more real love. And that ghosting meeting that I had with them, that was the realest love I done seen, I want to say, in like the 36 years of me living. I'm talking about collectively, not like one person individually. I'm talking about it was a lot of love, Shaul, am I lying? He was down there. Am I lying about that, Aki? It was just a lot of love, and from people from different ideologies some of us had that was put to the side. You know, so what is the point of me saying that? The point of me saying that is if a lot of us operated on real, genuine love about one another, you know, I think objectively using these platforms, using these media outlets can honestly improve, because it seems like when we get people that want to speak on it and might be have their best, our best interest in heart, we have someone that's attacking them. And the people that's usually attacking them is not in another ethnicity. It is us. We're attacking each other because we disagree, because we feel that they're wrong. But we can't sit. But if we just took the approach that some of the people that went down in Goshen and some of the people that was in the Goshen that been around for 30 years take, and let's look at the common goal that all of us desire. If we just focused on that and pushed that narrative, some will say, well, that's kind of false. That's being fake. You know what I'm saying? Because what about the other stuff that's causing the division? A lot of the stuff that's causing division are very small. It's just little personal things. I look at these nations that's together, that form together. It's a lot of stuff. Look at America as a whole. I'm not saying this is how it should be, but it's a lot of differences within it. But they use what brings and molds them together to stay strong, just like any other nation. So what is the point of me saying all this? The major point is, if we focus on that stuff, and then a lot of us came together and pushed and used media the way that we're trying to do it here on Love Language, because some of us here on Love Language have different ideologies too. We got differences of opinions within the text. We got differences of opinions of life and how we operate as mother, father, and as husband, wife. But it's an ultimate goal that we see that is causing us to deteriorate as a people. But if we came together and just focused on the things, the stuff that forms a nucleus, bring us together, and we cause that to allow more people to use this media platform in this way, it can truly improve. Now, media could be newspapers, all of that stuff. It could be what's normally dealing with publication, internet, and all that. I was about to say word of mouth, but you know, if we just change that dynamic, if we just really loved each other. We don't love each other, y'all. We do not love each other. I don't care, y'all. And I don't know if this is the fishbowl part talking. I kind of feel like this is just bigger than the fishbowl when I say this part. We don't really have it, that love that we claim and think we do, from what I see. There's many of us that do, but there's a lot of us that don't. Let a Malcolm X come on the scene right now, be out there trying to talk. And y'all ain't hearing them. We don't look at these Muslims the same way we did back then. We don't look at the Ben Amis, the Marcus Garvey, like we did back then. Now I want to say one last thing. I think that Chief Zeb is right. Like, it is a chance if we had those 3 individuals I mentioned, should they probably make a killing with this media that we got today that they didn't have back then. That's one part that probably could be the case. I think that's a real small case though today due to the what the media has done to us as far as integration and things like that. But last thing I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna close it with this, is that we will be able to use media to improve the quality of Black families if we use them more so in love with one another. I mean, real love, and been on one accord with each other. and we had more people doing it. But it's a lot of people being like separated. Individuality, we're using that more than anything. It's not collective anymore. So with that being the case, it's not going to be as effective that it could be going into what this question is asking. If we came together more, this question could be, it would make more sense. Not the question makes sense, but I'm saying as far as using media to improve the quality of Black families would make more sense if we was more together. And with that, I yield.
Gain. I'm not even sure if media itself can be used to improve the quality. I think the only thing media can do is illustrate what already exists or what doesn't exist. I mean, it's just like, again, it's just like going on Facebook. You know, Facebook, you only go, people post, you know what I'm saying, what they are. You know, like I think what's like Tamar said, you post what you are, or you post what you want to be, or what you think you are, or whatever the case may be. You know, and I think that trying to find improvement of the Black family through media, it requires that there's already work going on in that family. It requires that it assumes that work is already happening, and the media is only going to be used to express that fact. To kind of touch on what you said, Shama, as far as you know, the lack of love, you know, that people have or whatever, and you know, one of the things that I've come to understand, and I kind of it goes back to why you see a disproportionate amount of negative posts on social media versus positive, is that negativity requires no follow-up work. All it requires that you do is laugh at it, share it, get other people to laugh at it, or whatever, or get riled up, and you can pretty much walk away from it. There's nothing else required other than the entertainment element of it. With positivity is one of those weird things that once you utter it, you're actually held to it. People, you know, they expect you to live it out. So if I come out and I put up some positive stuff about, you know, a Black woman this and a Black man that or whatever like that, people are going to hold you to that. Because they're going to assume, well, oh, okay, you're dealing with that level of intellectualism or that level of morality. Now they're going to watch you and hold you to it. Whereas somebody who's constantly posting skullduggery or, you know, the Maury Show nonsense or whatever, nobody holds them to that. They laugh at it. They'll put up a little funny meme to show that they find it to be hilarious, and they move on. There's no work or effort invested in evil. Evil almost feeds off itself, whereas righteousness and things that are positive, we are held to a much higher standard to that, and so you're required to fulfill that. So when you're on social media, of course you're going to see a much higher rate of negativity being pushed because there's no responsibility attached to it. You can say it and just let it take on a life of its own on the timeline. You don't have to go back and say, oh, wow, I uttered that nonsense. Let me continue to show myself to be ignorant so it matches up to what I just said. No, nobody does that. Put out your ignorance and you keep it moving. But when you put out positivity, people hold you to that. Oftentimes, holding you to standards that they themselves can't hold themselves to. But that's the malady of social media. So when we're trying to determine if media can improve the quality of Black families, once again, it's like trying to say voting for a particular president will improve our life in this country. Well, probably not. But that, you know what I'm saying? But like going back to what we said earlier, or what that we were talking about earlier, there has to be accountability. It has to start from, okay, well, I can't change those people, but I can change me. And once I change me, then I could probably change that person who I talk to daily, or that person over there who I talk to periodically. And then they can change that person over there that they talk to, and whatever like that, and we can move forward in that way. And social media will only be a reflection of that change, or it'll be a reflection of your inability to change or to improve. So again, it goes back to what I was saying and what everybody was pretty much aiming at, and that is that social media is like a gun and it's like water. It depends on who's using it. That'll determine the effectiveness or the lack of effectiveness that it brings forth. So that's my platform. I wasn't really trying to follow up behind what Shema said is difficult, so I'm not even gonna attempt it. So that's pretty much all I'm gonna say, and I'll pass it on.
Y'all both pretty hit it pretty thoroughly. Social media media platforms alone are not the key to improving the quality of Black families, our families, period. I think the work has to start within the confines of those families, within the confines of that community. Once those are done, it could be a reflection. So, and I guess that reflection can then show others the way or the path, so to speak. But alone, I don't think it does its just due, because there's too many different pathways being expressed. So that family would have to kind of look and see what fits or what floats their boat. As Tamar said, or maybe that was Tamar and Chief, said we tend to post what we want to be or who we think we are, and every once in a while that truth kind of squeak out. Even within the confines of that, those are all reflections, either a reflection of what we want to do or who we are, in a sense. It's funny, I look at influencers, or that word of term in itself, or you look at some of I forgot the guy's name, like the guy that's always talking about loving and respecting women and his platform on how to do that. Or you have various different people who deem themselves having a certain answer to a particular problem, and they put forth their message. So media's provide a platform to show people how to improve their lives, whether it's, we don't even have to look at such a grand scale, but even on the smaller things, like going to YouTube to learn how to build a shelf. I'm quite sure that can improve your household. Maybe you got a whole bunch of books on the floor. So in that sense, yeah, but it has to be compound with action. And I'll yield there.
Oh snap! Okay. I think all three of you guys had great points. One thing. I'm gonna go from the last to the first. So I think Yeshayahu said as far as the action part, definitely got to be about that action, man. That's a great point.
Hey, bro, you just mute yourself, or you just had another issue with your signal, because we can't hear you.
All right, am I in?
You're here now.
Yeah, all right, cool. I don't know what's going on, man. I ain't gonna. I was about to get religious for a second and say the devil alive, man. Let me stop, man. Anyway, like I was saying, I think that Yeshayahu's point about action is definitely a great point. And then when Chief Zed was saying that when people post things, good things, we're held to a higher standard, and basically, you gotta do those things, and I agree with that, and that's what we should be doing. I mean, I don't agree that a person can't make a change or make things happen. I just think that the ability for people to identify in themselves the negativity that they have, or the cup that runneth over with negativity that they have, won't allow them to understand exactly how they need to improve. But that's how I was like, man, look, I don't think it's necessarily nothing wrong with faking it, man. If you're trying to do right, fake it till you make it, man. Because, hey, you got to change that mindset some type of way. And the thing is, you could be a person that's super negative. That's all you know. And when somebody brings positivity to you, it's boring. You be like, bro, I'm bored, bro, I'm negative. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, if you got to fake positivity to become truly positive, then do that. You know what I mean? But anyway, going back to Shamar's point, I think had the ultimate point when he talked about love, because it's not. I agree. Like, it's not enough of us. You know what I mean? It's not enough of us out here that want to cover each other, to show and prove that it's people out here that you can trust and depend on. Yeah, you ain't gonna like the fact that they keep it 100, and you always feel. I ain't gonna say always feel, but you may feel like, and why I'm getting called out, that's because you're overtly negative. You got certain things you need to work on, as well as I. But that's why we here. You know what I mean? And I think, but the thing is, to add on to what Shamar was saying, I think to get the love that he's talking about, man, the only way to understand love is to understand stupid, man. Goshen. The only way to understand love is to understand self-sacrifice. That's the only way. You know what I'm saying? You can't be selfish and only care about yourself and only worry about what you got going on with you. And you talking about, I want to do the work of the Most High. Talking about, I'm a child, I'm this, I'm that. Well, first of all, if you saying you a child of the Most High, you represent the Most High, you following the Most High. When it comes to the stuff that the Most High did, think about it. Think about how many things the Most High sacrificed for people that didn't even deserve it. You know what I'm saying? Somebody have to, that's why I keep talking about sacrifice. Like, somebody have to say, I'm going to love people unconditionally.
You gone again, brother.
All righty then.
Somebody want to take over till he get back? Maybe we can round back to him.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do my comments, then he can close it out. So just what everybody has already said, like definitely allowing the media to open up the conversation so we can dialogue. But somebody, I don't know who said it, but somebody said about, like, that's only going to be useful. Media is only useful for those who are already doing the work or committed to doing the work. So I think I absolutely agree with that. Like, they have that thing that says strong families produce strong nations. So it is definitely at the nuclear level. If you don't have a family, as far as, like, by marriage or whatnot, it might even just be with a friend. Maybe maybe your best friend. Y'all work on encouraging one another to be better and to do better. Also, the media, it opens up the conversations to even invite different perspectives and to teach us how to even engage in dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Because some of us don't even know how to, or come from families where arguing and yelling is the way we communicate. You know what I'm saying? But maybe in your own household, keeping the conversation open. My father, I said it before, my father was always open with us about every dog. I'm worse than he was, but he was definitely, he gave me the blueprint on how to be a parent by being really honest about everything. And I think that by doing so, then you can allow potentially negative things to come to the table, literally and figuratively, but then you would be able to have something to even properly address it. You know what I'm saying? Just by having a conversation over. So I think the media does a great job with allowing us to have things to talk about that are positive and negative, but that again, if you already are trying to do better than that, it's just another tool to use, just like you would use, I don't know, therapy or a book to help. So, Cho, you back? Nope, you're not back. Nope. No. Okay. So those are some of my final thoughts. Anybody have anything else they want to say before we get ready to close out?
No.
Is that on my end or?
No, I can't hear nobody. I mean, I can hear you, but I think Shaul is out, so I don't know.
Okay, so I thought Shamal was going to speak. I guess I'll do my closing now. As we alluded to and discussed multiple times on this show, media has its pros and its cons. It's definitely a gateway to allow many discussions to be held. It's a way to check your line of reasoning, thought, and processing versus what the rest of the world is speaking. It's also a way to become informed on things that you would have never even thought about or never learned if inside your own nucleus. So it's made a big world very small as far as accessibility. In relation to, particular communities, we have to do a better job in filterization and not living up to maybe what form of social media is saying about one particular group, or dealing with stereotypes. Or if it's something that fits you, then wear it proudly and say, this is who I am. So I would say, if you're going to use any form of media, make sure you understand the reasons why you're using it and what you're using it for, and increase positivity, or increase, not increase positivity, increase your truth. If it's who you are or what your community deems, then wear that and say that as honest as you can. Allow the masses to choose whether they agree with your narrative or not, but wear your narrative and apply action behind it. If we want to say we want to clean up the so-called Black community, then get out there and do it. Don't just speak it on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or TikTok or whatever other ones that are there. Go out there and be an influence to your community. I guess that'd kind of be my solution. Apply action behind what you're doing. And even if it's something you can't physically do at the present moment, then get with some people who can and network. With that, I'll say shalom, aka peace. And pass it on to anyone else who want to speak.
Okay, so great conversation as always. Pray everybody continue to have a great day, and until next time, shalom, shalom.